The moment I saw the deed with my daughter's name on it, and mine missing, I felt like I'd signed away my soul. Just yesterday she'd smiled over coffee and said, "It's just a tax form, Mom." I trusted her. I raised her. I gave her everything. And in return, she took my house with a single signature. Mine. I sat alone on my porch that morning, the same porch I painted twice, the same one my late husband had built with his bare hands. And now it legally belonged to someone else. My own daughter. They say betrayal from a stranger stings, but betrayal from your own child, that burns slow like a knife you don't realize is inside you until you try to breathe. It all started with breakfast. Cynthia had made me scrambled eggs that morning. She'd even buttered the toast the way I liked it, corners first, light on the center. She was smiling upbeat. It was unusual, but I chalked it up to the sunshine. Or maybe guilt in advance, though I didn't know it then. "Mom," she said, setting a folder on the table between my coffee and the sugar jar, "I got your taxes prepped this year. No stress for you." I looked at her over the rim of my mug. "You did." She nodded, brushing a strand of sleek hair behind her ear. "Just need your signature on a couple things so I can e-file. There's a clause about property exemptions, totally normal. My friend's mom did it too." Her husband, Jared, sat across the room tapping on his phone, not saying a word. That should have tipped me off right then. But I was tired. Tired of managing everything on my own since Raymond passed. Tired of bills and deadlines. Tired of the paperwork. And Cynthia, my only child, was finally stepping up to help. I flipped through the pages. Legal-sized paper, IRS logos, a few forms I half recognized. One of them had my name, my address, and something about title transfer non-taxable event. I squinted. "What's this?" She leaned in quickly. "Just language they use when adjusting exemptions. The house stays in the family, Mom. No taxes. Trust me. Trust me." 2 words that would echo in my head for weeks. I signed. And that should have been the end of it. But the next morning, I went down to the county assessor's office to pick up my homestead exemption paperwork. I'd forgotten Cynthia said she'd e-filed it. Habit, I guess. The woman behind the desk, Patty, who'd known me since 1992, gave me a confused smile. "Gloria, you don't own that property anymore." My breath caught. "Excuse me." She clicked a few times on her computer. "It was transferred yesterday. New owners, Cynthia and Jared Collins." My world slowed. My ears rang. I leaned on the counter for balance. I see the paperwork." She printed it without hesitation. There it was. My full name. My signature. Cynthia's name under grantee. Jared's too. The property listed was my home. The home I paid off 12 years ago. The home Raymond and I built a life in. I don't remember driving back. I remember my hands shaking on the steering wheel. I remember pulling into my own driveway and seeing Jared's truck parked at an angle like he owned the place. Because now he did. I walked into the kitchen. The scent of toast lingered. Cynthia looked up from the kitchen island where she was sipping a smoothie like it was any other day. "Hey, Mom," she said cheerfully. "Everything okay?" I held up the printed deed. "You want to explain this?" Her smile faltered for the briefest second. Just a twitch, but it returned fast. "Oh, that. It's still your house, Mom. We just transferred the title so we could take care of the taxes and paperwork. It's easier this way. You took my name off the deed." "It's still your home," she repeated, this time slower, like I was the one not understanding. "We're just the legal owners now for liability purposes." "For liability," I echoed. "What does that mean?" "It means, if something happens," Jared finally chimed in from the hallway, "we can handle it without all the red tape. You're not getting any younger, Gloria." My eyes burned, not with tears, but heat, anger, betrayal. I stared at my daughter. This woman I'd carried, fed, clothed, loved. This woman I'd helped through her divorce, through grad school, through the rough years when Jared couldn't keep a job. "You lied to me," I said quietly. Cynthia crossed her arms. "It's done now. Let's not make a scene." I turned and left the room before I could scream. I sat on my bed, their bed now, and stared at the walls I'd painted last fall. Soft blue, calm. Now it looked like a stranger's bedroom. And that night, when I heard Cynthia and Jared laughing over wine in the living room, something inside me cracked. They thought I was done. They thought I wouldn't fight. They forgot who raised them. I barely slept that night. The house creaked with unfamiliar confidence, like it no longer needed my permission to breathe. I listened to the sound of laughter drift from the living room, Cynthia and Jared clinking glasses, watching some Netflix show, like it was just another Friday night. Meanwhile, I sat upright in bed, with the deed on my lap, a cup of untouched chamomile growing cold beside me. I'd built this house, not with hammers or blueprints, but with memory, with casseroles pulled from the oven on birthdays, with Raymond's laughter echoing down the hallway, with Cynthia's baby cries and her first footsteps across this very floor. And now I was just a tenant in my own life. I stared at the document again, searching for a line, a phrase, anything that might give me an out. But it was legal, binding. My signature was right there in black ink. They hadn't forged it. I'd signed away my home, willingly, if not knowingly. I didn't eat breakfast the next morning. Couldn't. I sat on the porch in my robe, the same porch Cynthia used to roller skate on. Funny. She used to fall and cry until I kissed the scrape better. Now she held the power to toss me to the curb. She came out with her coffee like nothing happened. "Morning, Mom. You okay?" I didn't answer. She stood there for a moment, then shrugged and sipped her drink. "You're upset about yesterday." Still no reply. "Look, I know it feels weird, but nothing's really changed. You still live here. We just took care of some paperwork. It's for the best. You'll see." I turned to look at her. "You stole my house." That made her bristle. "Don't be dramatic. We didn't steal anything. You signed the documents." "Because you said it was for taxes." It was, she said too quickly, partially. There were also other reasons, legal reasons. "Like what?" Cynthia looked annoyed now. "Do you really want to get into the weeds on all that you said you trusted me? Trust hasn't changed, has it?" I stood up slowly, letting the silence stretch just long enough to make her uncomfortable. "I'll be making some calls today." "To who?" "To people who understand deeds and consequences." She smirked. "Mom, please. What are you going to do? You signed it. You can't just unsign it. It's done." And then, as if to twist the knife a little deeper, she added, "Just enjoy not having to worry anymore. Let us take care of things for once." I went inside and shut my bedroom door. I could hear her chuckle behind me. Around noon, Jared knocked once before entering, like it was a courtesy instead of an intrusion. "We're moving the furniture around today," he said, walking in like it was his room. "We're switching you to the guest room. Cynthia and I need more space." I blinked. "The guest room? This is my bedroom?" He shrugged. "It's just logistics. We're a family now, and it makes more sense for us to have the master. You can set up the guest room however you like." "I don't want the guest room." He paused in the doorway. "I don't think this is about what you want anymore, Gloria." The words hung in the air like wet smoke. I packed my things in silence. Every sweater I folded felt like a piece of myself being tucked away. I paused at the jewelry box Raymond gave me on our 20th anniversary. I stared at it, then moved it along with some documents to a locked drawer in my desk. That night in the cramped guest room that smelled faintly of mothballs and old paint, I opened my laptop and typed one word into Google: quitclaim deed fraud. My screen filled with article after article. Stories about seniors tricked into giving up their homes by their children or caregivers. Phrases like undue influence, elder financial abuse, and title reversal jumped out at me. My fingers trembled as I clicked through a few more pages. Then I picked up the phone. "Carla Beck, Elder Law and Property Litigation," the voice on the line said. I cleared my throat. "I need help." She took my name, asked a few questions, and booked me for the next afternoon. That night, I sat on my bed, their guest bed now, and began writing. Not just thoughts, but documentation. Time and date of the signature. What Cynthia told me. Jared's move into my bedroom. Their comments, word for word as best I could remember. I started a folder, labeled it property dispute, personal notes. Then I opened my filing cabinet and pulled out the original deed I'd kept all these years, yellowed and curled at the edges. I held it in one hand and the new deed in the other. One said Gloria Miles, sole owner. The other had erased me like I was a footnote in my own life. I took a deep breath and whispered, "You took your shot." Then I looked out the window at the moonlit yard and added, "Now it's mine." The guest room used to be my sewing room. Now it was where Cynthia stashed holiday decorations and Jared's extra gym equipment. A Peloton sat under the window like a trophy no one touched. I slept next to it that first night, my pillow pressed against the wall, listening to the thud of footsteps overhead as they rearranged the master bedroom. They weren't even trying to be quiet about it. The next morning, Cynthia knocked on my new door, not to check on me, not to apologize, but to hand me a list. "Here's what we're thinking, Mom. Meal schedule, shared groceries, cleaning rotation. It's just better if we all stay organized now that we're cohabiting. Cohabiting. Like I was some renter in a shared flat." I skimmed the list. Every meal had my name next to it. Every chore was mine. Cynthia and Jared were busy with work, she said. "Besides, you're retired. You have time." "I'm not your maid," I said quietly. Cynthia raised an eyebrow. "Don't be so defensive. This is how families operate." "Is it? Don't act like we're the bad guys. You raised me better than that, remember?" "I did, or at least I thought I had." I stuck the list in the trash as soon as she walked out. That week, the subtle humiliations piled up like dust. They changed the Wi-Fi password and didn't tell me. They moved my garden tools to the shed and locked it. Jared installed a Ring camera over the front door and didn't give me access. They hosted a barbecue in my backyard and introduced themselves to neighbors as the new owners. One of them even said we finally convinced Mom to downsize. Downsize. I wasn't moving into a retirement condo. I was shoved into my own spare room. But the final straw came that Friday afternoon. I was in the kitchen prepping a peach cobbler, my husband's recipe, when Jared walked in and said, "Hey, just a heads up, we've been talking about maybe renting out a room to help with expenses." I froze, knife halfway through the peaches. Renting out a room. "Yeah, maybe yours. I mean, you could move into the den. It has a pull-out couch." "The den doesn't have a door." "Well, you don't have much company, right?" I set the knife down slow and deliberate. My heart pounded in my chest, but my voice was steady. "This is my house." "No, Gloria," he said with a smirk. "It's ours." That night, I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I didn't yell. I wrote, page after page, recording every insult, every move they made. I even started taking pictures of things they moved, changed, claimed. When I realized the Ring camera might be recording me, I stopped speaking aloud at all. Silence became my shield. When I met with Carla Beck the next day, I handed her a folder an inch thick. She flipped through it slowly, her brows furrowing deeper with each page. "You've got more documentation than most of my clients collect in 6 months, she finally said. "You've been busy." "I've been underestimated." She nodded. "That's a good place to start." We went over everything, my signature, the timing, Cynthia's wording. Carla's mouth tightened when I recounted the tax form line. "That's classic undue influence," she said. "Not easy to prove, but not impossible either, especially with all this." "What are my chances?" "Better than theirs," she said, tapping the folder. She asked me to pull my bank statements, original deed copy, and any recordings if I could get them. She also suggested I start audio logging my conversations with them if I was legally allowed. Georgia was a one-party consent state. I was. Back home, Cynthia was hosting a vision board party with a few girlfriends in the dining room. Jared was outside firing up the grill. I walked through the house, slowly taking pictures on my phone as I went. Art on the walls. New rugs. My wedding china replaced with IKEA plates. All subtle signs of erasure. That night, I waited until Cynthia was in her room. I knocked. She opened the door, clearly irritated. Yes? I'd like to talk, I said calmly. She stepped out, phone still in her hand, eyebrows arched. Okay. I held up a document. I found the original deed. My name was on it. I also spoke to the county. They said this transfer happened the same day I signed that tax form. Cynthia's face twitched. I didn't consent to that. She rolled her eyes. You signed it, Mom. That's consent. No, I said. That's deception. I waited. She didn't answer right away. Then she smiled tight cold. You're not going to win, Mom. It's legal. Done. Finished. I've already spoken to a lawyer. That made her blink, just once, but I saw it. A lawyer, she repeated as if it were a punchline. Yes. She crossed her arms. You're going to waste your money trying to undo something you signed willingly. You think I'm stupid? I think you're emotional, she replied, and irrational. You're lucky we're here to take care of you. We could have just let the state handle everything. I stared at her for a long moment. You'll get a letter soon. Whatever she said, turning back to her room. Good luck with that. I didn't need luck. I had proof. And a plan. The certified envelope came 2 days later. I watched from the front window as the courier walked up the driveway, envelope in hand. Jared was mowing the lawn. Cynthia was upstairs rearranging closet shelves. My shelves. They didn't see it coming. I opened the door before he rang the bell. Ms. Gloria Miles. Yes. He handed me the envelope with a practiced smile. You've been served. It wasn't the lawsuit yet, just the notice of action. A formal warning. The kind that lets the other party know you're on the clock now. I closed the door gently, but my hands trembled as I turned the lock. Jared came inside 5 minutes later, sweaty and confused. What's that? Legal notice. From who? I met his eyes, my attorney. He barked out a nervous laugh. You're suing us. No, I said, setting the envelope down on the table. I'm taking back what's mine. Cynthia stormed in seconds later, phone in hand. Are you out of your mind? You lied, I said simply. You misrepresented legal documents. That's fraud. Her face flushed crimson. You signed. That makes it legal. I picked up my phone and tapped the screen. That's not what you said here. I played back the recording, her voice from the week before. It's just a tax form, Mom. Nothing serious. Jared stared at her. You said that. Cynthia looked panicked. You were recording me. Yes, I said. Georgia's a one-party consent state. I've been recording since the day you moved me out of my bedroom. Her hands clenched. You can't do this. I already have. She stormed off. Jared just stood there, unsure of who to defend. That night, I reviewed everything with Carla. We organized the case like a military operation. Exhibit A, the quitclaim deed dated and signed under false pretenses. Exhibit B, audio of Cynthia explicitly calling it a tax form. Exhibit C, screenshots of texts where she referred to the house as Mom's home even after the transfer. Exhibit D, bank records showing Cynthia and Jared took out a HELOC loan, home equity line of credit, against the house 3 days after filing the deed. $52,000 withdrawn. Exhibit E, notes on every conversation I could recall, backed by time-stamped voice memos. Exhibit F, photographs of the house, changes, furniture, moved locks, changed my name, removed from the mailbox. This isn't just a title dispute, Carla said. It's elder abuse, financial exploitation, coercion. She prepped a formal complaint to file with the court. But before that, we had to file an injunction to stop them from selling, refinancing, or leasing the property until the matter was resolved. If they try to sell this house, she warned, it'll become a nightmare to undo. We're locking it down now. I nodded. She filed the injunction Monday morning. By Tuesday, a temporary court order froze any action on the property. Cynthia received that notice while she was at a yoga class. She came home screeching. You've frozen our equity. My equity, I corrected. We needed that loan. You stole that loan. She stormed off again. Jared didn't say a word. For the next few days, the house was quiet, cold even. They no longer laughed in the living room. No more scented candles or music playing, just tension and distance. Jared avoided me entirely. Cynthia made snide comments only when she was sure I was alone. And still I recorded, logged, documented. Carla advised me not to engage emotionally. Let the evidence speak. Stay calm, stay factual. You're doing perfectly. I started sleeping better, despite the guest room. Each time I looked at my growing evidence folder, I felt more in control. They'd underestimated me, thought they could manipulate their way into my home, my assets, my silence. But I was a businesswoman for 30 years. I'd negotiated contracts, read fine print, paid taxes, balanced books, raised a child, and buried a husband. You don't survive that and come out soft. You come out steel. The court hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks out. In the meantime, Carla advised me to get personal items out of the house in case things escalated. I packed my jewelry photo albums, Raymond's watch his folded flag from the funeral. I moved them to a secure location. I even backed up all my evidence to the cloud encrypted and password protected. Cynthia noticed the bare shelves and panicked. Are you moving out? She asked, trying to mask her anxiety. No, I said, looking her dead in the eyes. I'm preparing. For what? For the truth. That night, they locked their bedroom door. I smiled as I locked my folder drawer. Cynthia made roast chicken that Sunday. She never cooked before moving in, but ever since the legal notice arrived, she'd been doing everything she thought a good daughter might. Setting the table, lighting candles, acting like this was just a little family misunderstanding. Sit, Mom, she said sweetly, pulling out a chair for me. We haven't had a proper meal together in weeks. Jared poured wine like we were celebrating something. We wanted to say thank you for everything, for letting us live here, for trusting us. I looked at the rosemary chicken, the mashed potatoes, the salad with cranberries just the way I liked it. Then I looked at my daughter. The performance was flawless, but I'd spent the last month watching this house turn into a stage, and I no longer believed the characters. I waited until dessert. Cynthia brought out peach cobbler, my recipe. I almost laughed. She even tried to serve it in the old blue casserole dish I'd brought to every church potluck since 1998. Still warm, she said, placing it in the center of the table. Just like you taught me. I set down my fork, wiped my mouth, reached into my handbag and pulled out a manila envelope. What's that? Jared asked, his smile tightening. I slid it across the table. Consider it dessert. Cynthia opened it, and her face turned pale. Her lips moved as she read the first page. Notice of civil action, she said aloud. Petition to reverse fraudulent conveyance. Emergency injunction. Request for restitution. Jared stood up so fast his chair screeched against the floor. You're suing us. No, I said, calm and measured. I'm holding you accountable. Cynthia slammed the folder shut. This is insane. You're tearing this family apart. I leaned forward. You did that the moment you tricked me into signing my home away. It was a tax strategy, Jared barked. A way to protect the asset. Then why take out a $50,000 loan against it, I asked. Silence. You think I don't know Carla got the bank records? The second the title was in your name, you used it as collateral. Cynthia's voice cracked. We needed help, Mom. Just a little breathing room. Then ask, I said. Don't steal. I didn't steal, she shouted, face, red, voice rising. You signed. You said families should help each other. I did, I replied. But what you did wasn't help. It was manipulation. It was fraud. Jared stepped forward. We're your family. No, I said quietly. Family doesn't move their mother into the guest room. Family doesn't lie about paperwork. Family doesn't treat you like a burden when you refuse to bankroll their fantasies. You're being vindictive, Cynthia snapped. You'd rather waste money on lawyers than help your own child. You're not a child, I said firmly. You're a grown woman who made grown decisions, and now you'll face grown consequences. Jared threw his napkin onto the table and stormed out of the room. I heard the back door slam. Cynthia stayed seated, breathing hard. We'll lose the house if this goes to court. It's my house, I reminded her. That's what we'll be proving. She stood slowly, her hands trembling. Do you even love me anymore? That was the cruelest question, the one she knew would hurt most. I looked at her, this daughter I once rocked to sleep in the very room she'd claimed as her own. I saw not just the woman she was now, but the girl she used to be. The one who scraped her knees on the driveway and cried for me. The one who snuck cookies from the jar and begged me not to tell Dad. I took a deep breath. I'll always love you, I said, but I don't trust you, and I won't be your victim. I walked away without touching the cobbler. The next morning, Carla filed the full complaint in Superior Court. Fraudulent conveyance, elder financial abuse, unauthorized use of property, demand for restitution and reversal of deed, immediate injunction granted. Cynthia and Jared were served again, this time officially. They stopped pretending after that. No more sweet talk, no more candles, no more dinners. Just cold silence, sharp glances, and the sound of doors slamming. I didn't engage. I went about my day as usual. I swept the porch, watered the garden, and cleaned my wedding china one last time before boxing it up for safekeeping. Carla called me midweek. They've retained counsel, she said. It's a law firm that specializes in family estate disputes. That tells me they think they have a case. They don't. They'll try to make this emotional, she warned. Paint you as senile, vindictive, or confused. I've got the recordings. I know, just be ready. I was. By the end of the week, I'd prepared my own folder copies of every document, screenshot and audio file, labeled, time-stamped, and indexed. I made 3 copies, one for Carla, one for the judge, and one for me. Because whatever happened next, I wanted a record, not just for court, but for myself. So I'd never forget how far I'd come. So I'd never question if I'd done the right thing. Because I had. They served me lunch like nothing happened. I served them court papers they couldn't swallow. And justice. Justice was on the menu now. The courthouse smelled like old wood and paper. Like history had soaked into the floors. Carla and I arrived early, walking past the newsstand and up the marble steps to courtroom 3B. I wore my Sunday best navy blazer, soft cream blouse, low heels. Not to impress, but to remind myself who I was: dignified, composed, and far from fragile. Cynthia and Jared were already seated at the plaintiff's table with their attorney, a sharp-jawed man in a tailored suit who looked like he charged by the eyebrow raise. They didn't look at me as I entered. Cynthia fidgeted. Jared tapped his knee. I could tell they weren't feeling so invincible anymore. The bailiff called the court to order. All rise for the Honorable Judge Marianne Lacey. Judge Lacey was in her late 50s, silver hair pulled into a tight bun, reading glasses low on her nose. She looked like a woman who could spot a lie from across a football field. We began. Cynthia's lawyer went first. He opened with the warmth. This is a case about misunderstanding. A daughter trying to protect her aging mother's assets. A family trying to plan for the future. My client, Mrs. Collins, had no intention of harming anyone. Her mother willingly transferred the deed. There was no coercion, no fraud, just miscommunication. He was good. He used words like unfortunate, complex emotional terrain. He called me a respected matriarch. He smiled at me like he was offering candy. Then Cynthia took the stand. She wore soft pink and her wedding pearls. She dabbed fake tears as she spoke. I just wanted to protect her, she said. Mom always said I'd get the house one day. I thought it made sense to do it now before something happened. I never meant to hurt her. Jared went next, sounding rehearsed. Gloria, Mom has been under a lot of stress. After Mr. Miles passed, she stopped managing things the way she used to. We stepped in because we love her. Carla leaned toward me and whispered, Watch how fast the pity turns to poison. Sure enough, their lawyer began hinting at mental fatigue, emotional instability, and difficulty managing legal documents. He even suggested that I'd forgotten agreeing to the transfer. That's when Carla stood. Your Honor, the defense will now present our response complete with dated evidence, direct recordings, and a comprehensive timeline. I took the stand. I spoke clearly, calmly. I didn't cry. I told the court what Cynthia had told me. It's just a tax form. I explained the timeline, the guest room, the HELOC loan they took against the house. I read excerpts from my own journal, what Cynthia and Jared had said word for word. Then Carla played the audio recordings. The courtroom was dead silent as Cynthia's voice played over the speaker. It's just paperwork for taxes, Mom. Nothing serious. Next came the screenshots of Cynthia texting her friend, "We moved the old woman into the guest room. Feels good to finally have space." Then a screenshot of Jared's message. "Once we pull the equity, we're golden." Their lawyer tried to object context, he said, but Judge Lacey overruled him. Then Carla dropped the hammer. "We have bank statements showing that within 72 hours of gaining ownership, the plaintiffs opened a line of credit secured against the house and spent $49,872 on non-essential expenses, furniture, a spa membership, 2 flights to Cabo San Lucas." Cynthia looked like she wanted to vanish into her seat. The judge flipped through the papers, pausing at the withdrawal dates. "This doesn't look like protection," she said. "It looks like exploitation." Their lawyer scrambled trying to reframe the conversation. He brought up how all families help one another in different ways. That's when Carla delivered the final blow. "We are not arguing about generosity, Your Honor. We are arguing about consent." Gloria Miles was misled. Her trust was weaponized. Her signature was obtained under false pretenses. And now they want to keep the house they stole with a smile. Silence. Then Judge Lacey spoke. "I've reviewed the evidence. The quitclaim deed was signed under misrepresentation. The plaintiffs took financial advantage of an elderly parent and used the asset for personal gain. I find in favor of the defendant." Cynthia gasped. Jared put his head in his hands. "The deed is to be reversed immediately. Title shall be restored solely to Gloria Miles. Furthermore, the court orders full restitution of any funds drawn against the property, including legal fees incurred by the defendant." Then with the gravity of thunder, she added, "I am also referring this case to the district attorney's office for investigation of potential elder financial abuse." The room tilted. I couldn't breathe for a second. The judge slammed her gavel. "Court is adjourned." Just like that, it was over. Cynthia turned to me as I stood, her eyes wild. "You ruined us." I looked at her, that girl I once cradled through fevers and heartbreaks, and replied softly, "No, baby. You did that all by yourself." Carla gathered our papers. "You did beautifully," she said. I didn't answer. I was still watching Cynthia standing there like a statue, expensive dress, ruined makeup, and not a single thing to show for it. Jared followed her out, muttering something about bankruptcy. I waited until they were gone, then exhaled. The house was mine again. But more than that, the truth was mine again. And no court could take that away. The locksmith came on a Tuesday. He wore faded jeans and had a kind smile. "Changing 'em all, ma'am?" he asked as he set down his toolbox. "Yes," I said. "Front, back, garage, even the shed." He gave a polite nod. "Got it." I stood on the porch with a cup of tea while he worked. The early spring air smelled like fresh soil and jasmine. For the first time in months, the house behind me didn't feel haunted. It felt like home again. By Friday, Cynthia and Jared were gone. Court order. They had 2 weeks to vacate after the ruling, but they didn't last that long. Jared left a pile of broken hangers in the driveway. Cynthia left behind a framed picture of our family from years ago, before the lies, before the lawsuit, before the rot, I threw it out with the rest of their boxes. The living room was quiet now, peaceful. The guest room had become my sewing room again. The master bedroom was once more mine sheets, clean dresser drawers in perfect order, not a wrinkle of their presence left. The home equity loan was frozen. The court ruled that the funds were acquired through deception and must be repaid. I wasn't responsible for a penny of it. Their credit ruined. Their reputations just beginning to catch fire. The DA's office opened an investigation. I don't know if they'll press criminal charges, and honestly, I don't much care. That part's not in my hands. What matters is this: they lost the house and I regained my dignity. Funny how betrayal tries to hollow you out, but when you stand up piece by piece, you start to feel again. My neighbor Helen dropped off cookies the week after the hearing. She said, "I heard what happened, Gloria. You handled it better than I ever could." I just smiled. You'd be surprised what you're capable of when the walls start closing in. Word spread fast in our little community. At church the next Sunday, people I hadn't spoken to in months came over to hug me. The same folks who had once whispered about how Cynthia's just trying to help her mom were now shaking their heads in quiet shame. And me, I forgave them. People believe what they're told until they see the receipts. Carla sent me a letter 2 weeks later. No more court dates, no more filings, just a clean title in my name and a note, "You won, Gloria," in every way that counts. I framed the deed and hung it in the hallway right next to Raymond's photo. I imagine he'd be proud. He always said I was tougher than I looked. You don't run a business for 30 years and raise a daughter on grit and grace without learning to fight clean, he used to say. He was right. Some nights I still lie awake and wonder when Cynthia changed. Was it the debt? The lifestyle she couldn't keep up with? The need to impress people who never cared? Or was it always there, just waiting for the moment I let my guard down? But I don't stay in that place long, because what happened wasn't my fault. And it sure as hell won't define me. Now I spend my mornings tending the garden again. The roses came back strong this year and the tomatoes are already starting to sprout. There's something about putting your hands in the dirt that reminds you what matters. Growth takes time. So does healing. But they both need the same thing: space, boundaries, and sunlight. Last week, I started volunteering at the senior center downtown, teaching a workshop called Know What You Sign. A room full of women my age nodding with a quiet kind of rage as I tell them, read everything. Trust your instincts and don't confuse blood with loyalty. One woman cried when I told my story. "That's what my son's doing to me," she whispered. I thought I was crazy. "No," I said, taking her hand. "You're not crazy. You're just seeing clearly for the first time." That's the lesson, isn't it? You can love someone and still say no. You can forgive and still protect yourself. You can be kind and still fight like hell when someone tries to take what's yours. I didn't lose my home. I reclaimed it. I didn't lose my daughter. She lost herself. And maybe one day she'll find her way back, not to my front door, but to her own conscience. Until then, I'm keeping the locks changed. So if you're out there listening to this, maybe sitting in your kitchen, or driving to work, or lying in bed, wondering if you're crazy for feeling betrayed by your own family, I want you to know something. You're not alone. You're not wrong for wanting peace. And you're never too old to stand your ground. Thank you for listening to my story. If it moved you, if it made you think of someone you love, or someone who's tried to take advantage of your love, please share it. And if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, because stories like these need to be told and voices like ours need to be heard. I'm Gloria Miles, and this was my fight, and I won.